Okay, well, I am a mother. I have two children, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And I am an e-commerce owner. I have a small business, and we've lived in New Zealand for about 8 years now. So originally from South Africa. So I had resisted giving my children any sort of social media, no phone, up until my son turned 13 and he started at a new school. And he said to me, everybody has a phone, everybody's on social media. Please, you have got to let me have this. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to make any friends. So he was in tears. He was really upset. And so I was like, oh my gosh, am I being too strict? Am I being, what age is the rating? They say, oh, it's 13. I thought, well, okay, he's 13. How can I argue with that? And so in the beginning, I said to him, okay, it's just 10 minutes. You can just get on there, and 10 minutes would turn into half an hour, turned into, and because with Snapchat, the messages disappear. Sometimes I would go on there, but I couldn't see any messaging. He started to really withdraw and he stopped having any interest in sport. And he has always been crazy about sport his whole life. And I thought, this is very strange, but I thought, okay, well, he's a teenager. I thought maybe this is this phase he's going through. And it was only about 6 months later when, we had the Christmas break, and then we were going to go back to school, and he started back at school, and something happened, which I don't want to reveal everything that happened, but we found out how depressed he was. I just didn't know where it came from. I was like, what is this? How could this be? And then I started looking at all his messages, and so on Instagram, a lot of them are there, and I realized that he'd been bullied. I looked at his profile on Instagram, and it was just everything about being depressed and self-harm and suicide. I couldn't believe it. You compare, that's when you really understand the algorithms, how different my feed is to his, and I was just, and then I looked even at his music, all depressing music, and I was like, wow, like, we've got to take this out. And so the minute we did that, I just took the phone away, took the social media away. A lot of people maybe think that was extreme, but I feel like it saved his life, to be honest. And from then onwards, I suddenly realized the danger that this has posed to him. Like, we could have lost him. And for many months after that, we've been struggling with that. Just walking alongside him. He's on medication. He's rebuilding himself, but it was a terrible experience. And I really wanted to do something to help other people basically realize what they don't know, that we need support, we need help from each other. And so I've tried to do a few things, like start the survey, but finding the group was like, this is what I've been looking for. I want a community that I can, because a lot of people around me, I guess, have already given their kids mobile phones, and they're almost resistant to change. And so I suppose I wanted a community that is on the same page as me, where we're thinking the same, we're looking for the same information, we're on the same sort of direction. We feel like we have the same challenge. And so it was really amazing to find a group of like-minded people where we're all on the same page. All right, so I started the change.org petition, which is very much about delaying social media for children under the age of 16. So basically saying, you should only really start social media when you're 16 here in New Zealand. And the main reason I started the petition is because I suddenly realized all the danger that was out there. And I thought, well, what are we doing here in New Zealand? What is actually being done? And then I was reading a bit more, and I see that in Australia, they're doing a similar petition to, wait for 36 months. So don't give them it at 13, but to wait till 16. And I thought, wow, everybody, the UK are talking about it. The USA are doing things. Europe are doing things. I thought, well, what are we doing here? Nobody's doing anything. And so I thought, well, just even doing the petition hopefully will raise people's awareness of the fact that actually, they have these age restrictions on the apps, and they're not always meaningful. They're not there for protection. They're there for another reason, for data protection, rather than actually the safety of children. And so we've started that petition. We've got about 100, almost just under 200 signatures. But we really need more people behind it. It's about pushing the government to have a look at it, to push social media companies to think about it. They're able to do these things. In Australia, they already have plans to trial, different ways of authorizing people's ages, verifying their ages, so that when they do sign up, it is actually that age. So these things are possible. It's not a far off dream, and I think the more pressure we can place on government, on social media companies, the closer we can be to creating more safety for our children.